I want this video to serve as a wake-up call, a reminder to everybody watching that our institutions failed us when we needed them the most, because we just got this article that says, arrest warrant issued for impeached South Korea President Yoon. Now, if you don't remember, Yoon was the one that about a month back tried to declare martial law in the middle of the night and then deployed soldiers to block politicians from convening to try to entrench his power within the South Korean government. And thankfully, the politicians ended up getting together and putting a stop to that. But then what followed is what you'd expect from a functioning first world democracy. South Korean lawmakers overturned his actions. They voted unanimously to nullify his declaration of martial law, and now they are taking decisive, actionable steps to ensure that Yoon cannot ever hold power again. And of course, I'm going to loop this back to what's going on in the US, but let's just run down what's going on. A court in South Korea has issued an arrest warrant against suspended President Yoon over his attempt to impose martial law on the 3rd of December, about a month back. The warrant comes after Yoon, who is being investigated for abusing power and inciting an insurrection, ignored 3 summons to appear for questioning over the past 2 weeks. Now, Yoon's legal team has called the warrant illegal and invalid and said they would challenge it in court. And remember, Trump did do something similar when they were trying to find the Mar-a-Lago documents. He obstructed, he said that it was an illegal investigation, and South Korea does take their politics from the US sometimes, but in this case, South Korea is leading the way by showing us how to act as a first world nation that should be blocking insurrectionists. So South Korea has been in political crisis since the short-lived martial law declaration, with Yoon and his successor both impeached by the opposition-dominated parliament. Yoon is South Korea's first sitting president to face arrest. Investigators have until the 6th of January, ironically, to execute the warrant that was approved by a court in the capital, Seoul, and can request an extension. It is unclear if investigators will be able to execute the warrant, as they may be thwarted by his security team and protesters, but again, they are taking decisive steps to make sure that somebody like this, somebody who threatens the democratic processes that allow a country to function, can't take office again. You don't equivocate, you don't delay the process, you don't allow political games to get in the way of justice when somebody is threatening our democracy, the foundations of our country. And you know, when it comes to the US, it seems like we slow-walked the case, and you can blame Merrick Garland if you want. You can blame Biden for appointing Merrick Garland. You definitely should blame the Republicans who acted like Trump didn't do it about 4 months after he did it, because most of the Republicans were disgusted on the day of. You can find tweets from Vivek Ramaswamy, from Elon Musk, all of these people saying, what the hell did Trump just do? But 4 months later, they blinded themselves and said, this is fine. So you can blame whoever you want, but at the end of the day, Donald Trump incited an insurrection, full stop. He sent his supporters to storm the Capitol on the day that Mike Pence was certifying the election results for Joe Biden. And it's not even about that. He tried to place fake slates of electors in 7 different key states. He called and bullied the Secretary of States of Georgia, Arizona, all of these states, and said, you better do what I'm telling you to do, just find 11,000 votes. And despite mountains of evidence pointing otherwise, Trump continued to say that there was massive widespread election fraud, which culminated into Mike Pence almost losing his life while he was certifying the election results. And you guys already know all this, but the thing that just bothers me is we have the tools to prevent Trump from ever taking power again. The 14th Amendment explicitly disqualifies anyone who is engaged in insurrection from holding public office again, and I can pull it up right here. We've all read Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of a president or vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as an executive or judicial officer, who have previously taken an oath to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. That's a lot of ors right there, but you can see what they're saying. If you have engaged in insurrection or rebellion, or if you've given aid or comfort to people who have, and you've held office, you've taken an oath to the Constitution, you can never again hold office. No person shall be a senator, a representative of Congress, or president. It's very, very clear and explicit, yet our institutions failed to act. They failed to act because, Merrick Garland did slow walk a few investigations, and the onus doesn't all fall on him, but we have to start talking about where we went wrong, because South Korea's actions, for example, serve as a stark contrast. This happened less than a month ago, and their politicians, despite being deeply divided, immediately act with urgency and unity to protect their democracy. They didn't hide behind partisan loyalty or bureaucratic delays. They didn't put their nation's stability above political convenience. I mean, a lot of these people, Ted Cruz, knew that January 6th was disgusting. He said as much, and years later, he's going to act like it never even happened. And something that I find pretty interesting, I found this article while I was doing research. This is from January 7th of 2021. It says, South Koreans confused and disgusted at U.S. election-related violence. South Korea, whose political development and systems of government have long been influenced in part by the United States, is reacting with bewilderment to this week's deadly post-election violence in Washington, D.C. And people get mad when I say this. People don't understand when I say this, but a lot of other countries do look to our political system. I know that it's dysfunctional. I know that our institutions aren't perfect, but South Korea a lot of times does model the USA's democratic institutions. Even in Brazil, there was a very similar event to January 6th with Bolsonaro, and even he was banned of holding office for the next decade or so. So people get mad or think that I'm naive for thinking that America does dictate other countries' institutions, but clearly, right here, South Korea, whose political development and systems of government have long been influenced in part by the United States, is reacting in bewilderment. Many in South Korea, formerly ruled by military strongmen, but now consistently ranked as one of Asia's strongest democracies, expressed confusion and disgust about the rocky transfer of power in Washington. And if you want more proof that they sort of model after our institutions, look what happens 3 years later. Yoon pulls a Trump and does the exact same thing. And something that I found pretty interesting is, under South Korean law, the leader of a rebellion can face the death penalty or life in imprisonment if convicted. Yoon has presidential immunity from most criminal prosecution, but the privilege does not extend to allegations of rebellion or treason. Yoon's powers have been suspended since the opposition-controlled National Assembly voted to impeach him on December 14th over his imposition of martial law, which drew hundreds of troops and police officers into Seoul streets. Now, America, we did impeach Trump, but the House impeached him. The Senate never convicted him due to political loyalties, due to partisan people being entrenched in their own partisan worlds. But here, the opposition party straight up neutered him. They removed him, and that is how it should happen. So here in the United States, our institutions were tested on January 6th. It's not even about January 6th. I say this all the time, but I don't even care about the dumb fucks that broke into the Capitol on that day. It's more about the events leading up to that. It's more about the fake elector scheme. It's more about Trump repeatedly saying that there was election fraud so he could lay the groundwork to declare victory on election night prematurely. And it honestly blows my mind that this dude is about to be sworn back in. And that loops me back to the beginning of the video when I said this should be a stark reminder that our institutions genuinely failed us. And maybe it's the politicians within those institutions that failed us, but they go hand in hand. When people at an individual level refuse to stand up for our democracy, when all of these Republicans, people like Ted Cruz, we can go down the list, Lindsey Graham, whoever the hell, when they run defense for an insurrection, we know something is broken. We know that people care about their own political power more so than the longevity of our country. It also just sends a message that if you're powerful enough, you can act with impunity. Again, it undermines the very foundation of democracy and sets a precedent that others will exploit, not only domestically, but Trump already set a precedent that other countries are following. I can almost guarantee part of the reason Yoon got the idea to do this, or thought that he could get away with it, is because Trump literally got away with it. He did this 1 month after Trump won the election, so other countries do look to the US in some way, and I think that right now, we should be looking to South Korea to reflect on our own failures. Their decisive action to prevent an insurrectionist from regaining power shows a level of institutional integrity that we should aspire to. And of course, this story is not done yet. This dude is not even in jail yet. Right now, he is resisting arrest. This says South Korea's impeachment president resists arrest over martial law bid, but they've already taken more action than we have And I think that we should model after that. So the question we should ask is, why did our politicians let partisanship or bureaucracy or fear of backlash paralyze our institutions? Because some people may disagree with this, but I do think Merrick Garland, in his quest to be so fair and bipartisan, ended up being tilted towards the Republicans. In his quest to not bring politics into our institutions, he himself brought politics into our institutions by preventing Donald Trump from seeing the consequences of his actions. So I'll leave it at that. Please let me know what you guys think in the description below. I value what you guys say a lot. So drop a like, subscribe. Love you guys. See you in the next video, and peace out.